A warm welcome from Indian Lawyer Association. So today's webinar is on constitutional law, as you all know. We have our esteemed guests today, the speakers, and our moderator, Mr. Navneet Chugh, who is the chairman of ILA and the managing partner of Chugh LLP. So ILA is basically a voluntary non-profit professional organization for the legal fraternity in India, as you all know. So ILA basically works on the concept of chapters. So we have set around 80 chapters in different cities of India as of now. And we have a target of 400 chapters, which we will achieve soon. So now I would like to hand it over to Mr. Chugh. Mr. Chugh, please.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us. We're very happy to be involved with the Indian Lawyers Association. All the other professions in India have an industry body. The business people have had CII and FICCI and NASCOM and ASSOCHAM and everything for ages. The engineers and doctors have lots of organizations. It's only the lawyers that we've been missing an industry body, so we're very glad that we were able to start Indian Lawyers Association 6 years ago. Our goal is to have 400 chapters around the country. There's 400 cities in India with a population of over 1 lakh. So we would like to be in every one of those 400 cities. And we're making great progress. So today the topic is Constitution, and we have a wonderful panel with us today. So we'll start with you, Dr. Shreyas Vyas. If you can first tell us a little bit about your life and your background, and then I'll have the first question for you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for ILA. Thank you, Chugh, sir, for inviting me and expressing my views. So basically, I'm a faculty by profession, law professor, and I'm working at National Institute for Securities Market. So this is basically a capacity building initiative which has been started by SEBI for training the professionals in securities market in India and abroad. And I'm having specialization in corporate laws, and I have a half a decade of, or more than half a decade of experience in teaching of various legal subjects relating to corporate laws and some social laws as well. So that is it from my side.
Okay. And what's your doctorate in?
So my doctorate is in with relating to laws of mergers and acquisitions in India in relation to Companies Act 2013. So I've done a policy analysis as to how we as in India, as a growing economy, should create the laws relating to the specific topics like taxations, like intellectual property rights, technology transfers, and all those related aspects.
Sure, great. Ritesh, you want to introduce yourself as well? Tell us about your life and profession. Ritesh Patil. Okay, I think he just joined. So let me start with you, Dr. Vyas. So we know that for the longest time, India was one of the richest countries in the planet. And then XYZ happened and we lost our status as one of the richest, and our share of the world GDP went from 25% in 1750 to 2.5% in 1991. And fortunately, the climb back up has started. And we're now at about 5%. We have 17% of the world's population, so we should have 17% of the world's GDP. So my first question to you, Dr. Vyas, is that do you think the way the Indian Constitution is now, if God came to earth and said to you that, Dr. Vyas, India needs to be a first world nation, which means 6 times the per capita income of an average Indian now, by our 100th anniversary in 2047, what changes would you make to the Indian Constitution to help India achieve that goal of becoming a first world nation by 2047, which would mean a 6x our per capita income? But before you answer, I want Ritesh to have an opportunity to introduce himself. Go ahead, Ritesh.
Thank you, sir. Myself, Ritesh Patil. I'm from Nagpur. I am pursuing my PhD also. My research topic is laws and schemes under Article 15, Clause 4 of Indian Constitution, and positive discrimination jurisprudence and analysis of positive discrimination jurisprudence developed by the Supreme Court of India. I practice in Supreme Court. This January, I became advocate on record in the Supreme Court of India, and I got enrolled in 2017. Since then, I'm practicing. I'm practicing Supreme Court since 2019, and I'm a small activist of Ambedkar right movement. That's my introduction in short.
Okay, wonderful. So happy you're from Nagpur. I had the pleasure of being born there and living there for 19 and a half years before I ran away from the country. So very happy. Went to GS College of Commerce and Central School in Kendriya Vidyalaya Vayusena Nagar all my 11 years of student life. 11 because mine was the last batch in the country before it switched to 12. So you get to answer second, Ritesh, the same question. So Dr. Vyas, what's your response?
Sir, I believe that per se, to best of my understanding and my small experience of interacting with the students, sir, I believe that in case of our country per se, there is no problem with the constitution per se, because of the simple reason that, sir, our founding fathers tried to create a very comprehensive constitution, and they tried to give the best which was available at that point in time. And if you will see, and if you will read our constitution as well, sir, there are scope which have been given to improve. Like, for example, if you see the directive principles of state policies and the different rights which have been given, there are some limitations which have been put in. But uh, in that case, that limitations are there to protect the other citizens. Right, sir. So that is my understanding. And but the problem which we as a next generation lawyers or my peers or my juniors of mine, it's our responsibility, sir, that we need to take our constitution and vision of our constitution, our for our founding fathers, that that vision has to be enhanced. That vision is to be progress. It has to be worked out for welfare of the people. Because if you'll see, sir, the first three words of our constitution is "We the people of India." So when we say "We the people of India," that gives a more comprehensiveness to the very essence of the constitutionalism. So when we are talking, sir, and there are, it's not the case that only this government has worked out for our constitution for development. We have seen successive governments working well and for the development of the nation. They try to work what is best for our country at that point in time. There, yes, we accept that there are some mistakes been committed, because they were not gods or demigods. They were humans. They have committed some mistakes. There were some problems. There was many problems which have been resolved, and we can see, sir, the respect which the country is earning across the globe, sir. That is also some that I think tests the time of our constitution. And if you'll see, unfortunately, we could say that our neighbors have changed the constitution twice, thrice. I'm not commenting on that, but this is something very successive, sir, that we are able to sustain our constitution, even though we had so many changes in our constitution being done. And I believe those constitution changes are being done just to make sure that every last person who's there in our country gets the benefit. So I believe,
so if
sir,
you were to
yes,
if you were to become Ambedkar today and rewrite the constitution, what's one thing you would change?
sir, I would say no, sir. I won't say nothing. Yeah, but more practical approach has to be taken up in writing constitution, sir. I won't say that, okay, I want to rewrite something. I believe it's a better implementation of the policies which are there. Because if you see, sir, in India per se, I think Ritesh sir will also agree with my point of view, and I believe all of you will also agree that the constitution has given us some powers, and using those powers every 20-30 years with the help of our judiciary, the constitution is evolving, sir. So for example, if you'll see, sir, when we had the independence, there were series of judgments which changed, which help improving our life. Then we see in 70s there were many judgments, many landmark judgments which came out down to India, like for example Keshwan and Bharti and all those judgments. Then if you will see, sir, in early 2000 until date, we are seeing constitution rights, like for example there are many judgments, sir, wherein, like for example, wherein the information technology acts were being improved. There were many changes which was been brought in, sir. So I believe there is no need of rewriting the constitution, but it is more of with relating to better implementation of our constitution. Like for example, if you will see, sir, I'll just conclude my point by saying that, like, even if you see the founding fathers of our founding father of our country, that is Mahatma Gandhi, he said that we need to reach out to the last person of in our country. And I believe, sir, the successive governments have tried their level best to improve that understanding. So that is what I would like to say, that we need to have better implementation.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Ritesh? You're mute.
Ritesh, sir, I think you're
In
on
the
mute.
beginning, sorry, yes, I couldn't hear you. Could you please repeat
Right.
the question? What was the question? Yes.
Yeah. So the question was that India was the one of the richest countries in the planet from year 1 to 1750, and then the decline started. And by 1991, it had become one of the poorest. And now we want to become a first world nation again by 2047 by the time of our 100th anniversary. And what changes would you suggest to the Constitution that would help us get there?
Sir, on this point, I would like to start with the goal of our constitution is to establish a social democracy. So I believe that we should work towards it. Recently, in last month only, HIPAA also published a data which stating that top 1% Indians income share is higher now than the British rules. So unless this economic inequalities and the social inequalities, if it exists, that is not the goal of the constitution. The goal of the constitution is to establish the social democracy. When the India was being called as Sone ki Chidiya, it was because the people were happy. They were behaving with each others with the respect. They were respecting the rights of others. So that has to be created. Even Vyas sir have pointed out about it. About making amendment in the constitution, making changes in the constitution. Dr. Ambedkar had also said on 25th November 1949 in his last speech in the Constituent Assembly that however good a constitution may be, it may turn out bad if those who are called to work it happen to be a bad lot. And after the independence, he warned that if we are failing, we will have no one to be blamed for it, and it will be we ourselves will be responsible for all this. So even after within the 75 years of independence, the top 1% share presently the data showed that in 2022, uh, 22.6% of the national income was is with the top 1% of Indians. So this is what we are going behind where we were when the British left India. So what I believe that we have the Indian constitution is the best constitution in the world, which is recognized by everyone. It is very much suitable. Still, it is sustaining, and the country is running on it. So the important thing is that the policies should be framed accordingly so that we can achieve the goal. So the policies making we also have good policies, but where we are lacking is the implementation. And again, what Dr. Ambedkar again had quoted in the Constituent Assembly, that we must put our nation before any religion. We must be firstly Indian and lastly Indian. If every Indian is taking up with that, working with that attitude, definitely no changes are required in the constitution, and without any changes, even the worst constitution can become the best, can be proved the best constitution if those who are implementing or those who are called to implement it are good enough.
So if you were asked to rewrite the Constitution in any which way you want, is there anything you would change?
So rather than changing, I would say with the directive principles of the state policy, what the judiciary have also stepped in, and we can see the right to education. Now it's a fundamental right. So judiciary have recognized on many occasions directive principles they have considered as a fundamental right. So that is important. Where the economic, when we are talking about the economy, so the economic policies should be framed accordingly, and the judicial intervention is also required. What the judiciary have time and again have restrained itself from interfering with the economic policies. Means they should not make the policies, but at least there should be some attempt to make it workable. What is then the directive principles?
So it's 1950 and the Constitution is not written yet. And Nehru calls you and says, Ritesh, can you, Ambedkar started writing it and it's January 1. And can you, something happened to him and he can't finish it. And can you please finish it, Ritesh? And Nehru says to you, you can do whatever you want. I respect you a lot. You can write whatever you want. Nobody's going to ask you anything. Go ahead. Would you put in special rights for the untouchables and the Dalits if you had 100% control over the Indian Constitution in 1950?
The balance should be there. So keeping the balance, will do it
First line of the
accordingly. Means
Constitution is
not,
every
yeah.
human being is equal. And second line says you can't discriminate against the untouchables. And the third line, you're going to put that they get special treatment.
Because the equality is the goal to be achieved. He stated, Ambedkar stated that we must accept this, that we are lacking in equality. We don't have equality in our society, and so also the fraternity. So our goal is to establish it. So we can't treat unequals equally. We have to treat equals equally.
So he agreed to a 10-year special treatment for the Dalits so that India can achieve some equality, right? And there was a sunset clause that the special
10 years in
treatment.
political reservation. Yeah, political reservation. That was for the 10 years.
Okay, and then now it's been 75 and
80.
okay. Well,
It's 80
all
every
right.
10 years. It is, yeah, that is the political reservation.
So what happened to
Okay.
the 10-year sunset? Not happened yet, right? And will never happen, right? So, and I guess we can blame the politicians if we want to, but that's their job. They have to maintain their seats, and then the half of the country is going to be very unhappy with the politicians, and they'll lose their seats. So I don't blame the politicians, but can we blame the court that okay, the
No, I would
politicians
say
aren't going to do it?
it is what Dr. Ambedkar had also stated in the animation of caste, that it is a responsibility of the intellectual class of the country. Every country, the majority of the citizens or ordinary citizens, they follow the intellectual class. So it is a responsibility of the intellectual class to take the responsibility, not just to blame the politicians. So if somebody is having that ideology, or somebody claims that he will be acting in such and such way, which is actually required, needed, in that way, it is his responsibility to step up and give the leadership to the nation.
But
Himself, he
the
can become a
intellectual,
leader or
but
can
the
create a leadership.
intellectual class can't do anything. We can write editorial opinions in newspapers, but what power do we have? There are only two people with power: the politicians and the courts. So the politicians aren't going to do it, understandably. But what is the court's problem? Why can't the Supreme Court say that, hey, 10 years was enough, but okay, 20, 30, 40, 70 some now. And let's move on. Every human being in India should be equal. How many other countries do we know of the 192 countries in the planet where there's a special treatment for a group of people? And if you were given the absolute power to remove it, now that 50 plus 23, 73 years have gone by, would you remove it?
It's not about number of years, it's about how much we have achieved our goals. And the
And
reason for extending is based known to the to those who were in a power or who are in a position to extend it. Obviously, there are representative. So ourselves have
yeah, what
chosen them.
do you think 73 years is enough? Because if we couldn't do it in 73, we can't do it in 700 either, right?
Right, very true.
Okay. Dr. Bias,
At 70,
would
yeah,
you in
I would say
1950, yeah, Dr. Bias, would you in 1950 have included special treatment for half of India or one third of India back then?
Sir, I'll just like to quote the Indian Constitution, what we the preamble again, because I
Okay.
believe that is the essence of our Constitution. Because it says, and the last line says, in our Constitution Assembly, we hereby 26th of so and so day hereby adopt, enact, and give ourselves this Constitution. So, sir, I would like to say we have given this Constitution, and definitely, sir, at that point in time, there was a need to have this kind of status, because if you will see, sir, the literacy rate which was there, although we have improved manifold, but that was a need of an hour. And why I
18%, 18% literacy in
yes, sir. And
1947.
now I believe we have reached more than, and we are, I believe we are touching 80%. Sir,
Right. But
it is not
Dr. Vyas,
about,
people, what do you say to people that argue that the best way in 1950, the best way to remove the discrimination against the untouchables was to not mention it? And within a few months, things would have worked out. Nobody would have been branded. That every new baby that was born in 1951 was branded by the government of India as untouchable and branded for life. And that's still going on. As a matter of fact, it was 33% now. Now the Patels wanted, now the Jats wanted, and other people wanted. Now it's over 50%, right? So now the discrimination is against the 45% that are not Dalit.
sir, I agree to you, and it is all about, I believe that it is all about mindset. And sir, I just would like to quote that it is India is not just the only country facing these kinds of problems. Because if you see South Africa, there was a problem of apartheid, and then if you go to US, there are problems which people, the Aboriginal people, the Red Indians, which we call them, they are still facing problems. And interestingly, sir, I'll just like to say that recently I was just reading, it's been quite long time when any Aboriginal people or Red Indians, which we call them, they have become a judge of federal court. So I believe, sir, it is not about the numbers, it is not about the time, it is all about the mindset, sir. Because, and as I said, with regard to the political parties, sir, we are not importing, to be very honest. And if you'll also agree, sir, you've been there in US for quite long number of times, and other people who are there, my and the fellow people who are there in the panel and the people who are viewing it, that we are not importing our politicians or the people who are representing us from some mass or some other any other country. They are from our society only. So we cannot blame the enforcement people, the people who are in power, the people who are enforcing the law and order. They are the people who are from amongst only, sir. So if we
Okay.
think that we need to change the mindset, we need to check that what is the mindset of our society, because these political parties, these law enforcement agencies are part of our society. So if we are not changing our mindset, nothing will change. Even if the best possible laws which we can brought in,
Okay.
we can
So
see
you
U.S.
given
Constitution working.
you're a Supreme Court judge tomorrow, and there's a petition to remove all favorable treatment to any class of people in India and make all Indians equal. And the petition is in front of you. Are you removing all special treatment tomorrow? 73 years enough?
So, sir, thank you so much for putting up that point. I'll be highly obliged to sit on the Supreme Court bench. Sir, I believe that I'll first of all will look for that whether actually why there's something was being placed, whether it has fulfilled its purpose or not.
Okay, you know why it was placed and 73 years have gone by. What's your opinion? Are we
Sir,
ready
I
to
believe,
move on?
Sir, I believe there was a very famous poet, and I'll just tell you, the daffodils, if you have heard about, sir, they say, and there was one very interesting line which says that I have traveled a lot time and there were many things to be traveled for. So I believe, sir, we have tried to improve. There are changes, but yes, sir, I believe that there is a change of mindset which is needed, sir, because today whatever laws we have, whatever things, best possible things are there, but whether are we able to change that mindset, that is something which is very important. Sir, if you will see your grandmother, there was some discrimination. I won't quote certain things what used to happen. I believe certain moderations have been brought in by my parents, and I believe we are quite moderate enough in my generation. So I believe, sir, that will take some time, because if you'll see, sir, there are many things which require maturity.
So you're the
And
Supreme Court judge.
so
What are
that's
you doing to my, what are you going to do to my petition tomorrow? I want you to make all Indians equal, and I want you to remove all special treatment for anybody, including the Dalits. Are you going to keep the special treatment, or are you going to make all Indians equal? I'm giving you a pen. You have to sign yes or no. What do you want to do tomorrow? I'm sorry, you don't have time to think about it. You've had, how old are you? How old are you? How old are you, Dr. Vyas?
Sir, I'm 32, sir.
32. Okay, so the first 10 years of your life, you didn't have a lot of brain, so forget that. So you've had 22 years to think about it. So what are you doing tomorrow? Are you removing special privileges or no?
Sir, I believe our population is more like our hands. If you will see, sir, if we are equalizing everything, then there will be a purpose. There must be some purpose why our fingers are not equal, sir.
Right. So
There
you've
must
had
be some
22
reason.
years to think about it. What are you doing tomorrow? Are you keeping the special privileges, or are you making all Indians equal?
Sir, it is not possible to make each and everything possible, sir, equal, sir. Because if we are making,
Okay.
then it is more like a cut, copy, paste, which we do. And if we
Okay,
are
so
doing certain things,
you're keeping the privileges, right?
yes, sir, I believe.
Okay,
But I
for
just
how
would like.
much longer? It's been 73 years. So my next question to you, Honorable Judge Vyas, is in how many years can I come back and your answer will be the opposite of what you're ruling today? How many more years should I wait? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 100th year anniversary? Will you sign?
Sir, I believe that I still at that point in time, I will just check that whether things are appropriately being implemented or not. So because even if we make equal, so tell me whether we are able to put things forward or not. Because it's not in case of our country, sir. If we will see that there are, it's not in our case, sir. It's not that in only in our country we have these kinds of problems. If we see in US as well, there are many red Indians which are facing many problems. So if because to best of my knowledge, sir, I might be subject to corrections, but I think recently only some red Indian was being made a federal judge in US. So US took at least 300 years, sir. If you see 1776, sir, to best of my knowledge, when US Constitution come into picture, and now they have a red Indian or any the people who are from so-called minorities in US. And let me put it forward, sir. They were the original peoples who actually inhabited the US. There were no white. There was no technically. I might be sound controversial, but there was no white supremacy because at some point in time, US was also a colony of UK or some other countries as well. So it takes time, sir. It is not a 2 minutes Maggie noodle which we have to create. Certain things take their own time to brew. there are majorities, sir. As I said, it will take some time, sir. I think, sir, if you come down, things have got moderate from 3 generations, sir. I believe from the time from my independence, my grandfather was there, my father is there, and still I'm there. So
Right.
I believe, sir, there are improvement, and I think in next few years, it's not about law, sir. If we'll make law, people have to follow it. But what about the mindset, sir? That mindset
Right.
has to be changed for the entire society. Then only
Yeah,
I believe
you're
the
right.
change is
You're
going to
right.
happen.
You're right, except for the biggest difference is that the American Indians, as we call them in US and not Red Indians, that's kind of derogatory. So, but their only population's only about 3% of the country. But what's going on in India is now affecting 55%. Okay, let's move to the next topic. So what about, let's talk about the federal state structure. When US got its independence in 1786, George Washington went to all the states, there were 13 colonies then, and said, hey, let's form a country. And those 13 colonies said, are you kidding? We just got freedom from the British and we were not happy in England and we wanted to run away from England. And now you want to start another country? No, we're not interested. So George Washington told them that, hey, you know, the British are going to come back. It's such a big, huge country. They're not going to leave us alone. Yeah, fine. We made them run away, but they're going to come back. So why don't you give me just 3 things? Why don't you give me interstate commerce or intrastate relationships and give me the monetary policy or the dollar and give me defense. And if you're so hung up on not wanting a country, fine, keep all of the powers to yourself. So the US Constitution gave the federal government almost next to nothing, no powers, very little powers besides these 3. And so as a matter of fact, the president of the United States doesn't have a whole bunch that he or she can do. Now, in 1947, the reverse happened in India of what happened with George Washington. Nehru and company they were princely states. They were Hyderabad wanting to join Pakistan, building a road from Hyderabad to Karachi. And Goa didn't leave, the Portuguese didn't leave Goa till 1961 when army was about to march in. So Nehru and company had to do the reverse and show to the 350 million people of India that, hey, we're one country, forget all these princely states, forget what has happened. And to show that New Delhi is powerful, they did the reverse of what Washington did in the US, which is consolidate power. And the federal government ended up with most of the power in the country. So the question to both of you is that very hard, strict, powerful federal structure working for India? And if we want to become a first world nation by 2047, do you think a country of 1.4 billion people should have a very strong center, or is it about time that we gave more power to the 29 states and to the districts and to the cities? Whoever wants to answer that, go ahead. Ritesh.
Yes. First of all, our federation was not the result of an agreement. State joined as a federation. And for the federation or federal structure, the basic principle is the partition of the legislative and executive authority. So that is the basic principle, and therefore I think that we have definitely have a central strong in India in our quasi federal structure, we can say, and that is only the residuary power are with the central. But apart from that, there is only exception like the emergency where the powers are in hands of the center, we can say. Otherwise, like the basic principle for the federation is the partition of the executive and legislative powers that we already have in our constitution. So I don't think anything else required to be done in our federation.
So, Dr. Vyas, do you think education, more power should be given to the states, and tax, you think the state should be allowed to tax their citizens?
Sir, I believe that education is in a concurrent power point wherein, sir, per se, both the state and the center can make the law, because I believe our founding fathers uh, tend to work on that way because of simple reasons that they want to have a kind of a centralized education policy wherein all the people are being educated. But depending upon the state situation, they can have, every state will have their own rules and regulations to be created. Like for example, if you see in case of Maharashtra, so there are state board, that is state Maharashtra board, and then there is CBC schools or the ICC schools. So both these states, like, or if they are giving options to the students, okay, which study you want to have. That is what, sir. And I believe state, with the new laws being implemented, laws like GST and all these things, our life has been taken care. But I believe some taxing powers are being given to the state so that they can also churn out their revenue. Because to best of my understanding, sir, and to my limited small knowledge of history, I believe India was the very first country who documented why they are making specific constitution, why, what is a discussion, what are they thinking at one point in time. In our country. And if you will see, that is what Ritesh sir also quoted Dr. Ambedkar from his different speeches, and that was not with the case of United States, sir. That is my personal understanding, why they have taken only 3-4 powers and they have given the rest of the powers to the other countries, right, sir? So that I believe, per se, we are changing, we are evolving as per the need of the times. We are using, or we are getting different taxes. Like for example, recently we had GST come into picture, and I believe the numbers the central government is coming in, that okay, the revenue is increasing. So I believe, sir, our country is trying to untangle certain things, and they're trying to change certain things which our generation or Ritesh's generation or our fathers are looking for, to untangle certain things. If we have committed some mistakes, sir, I believe in our constitution give us adequate powers to ensure that if some mistake, if there is some implementation being done, or in maths we call it, we suppose certain things, with that's how certain things will work out. But if there is some difficulty clause removal things are there, I believe our constitution has given that. And I
You
believe
think
my generation.
you think states should have a power to tax income separately in addition to the federal government, so that the state can derive its own
Definitely, sir.
revenue?
Definitely, sir, because every state requires certain generation, it requires certain taxes, some specific needs to be fulfilled from their part. And that is why I believe, sir, they need certain basic taxing powers so that they can get their own money. Because if, God forbid, anything happen, or if the state government is not, or the central government is not able to give adequate money at that point in time, they can churn out some money. That is why I believe the state should have power to tax certain basic things.
So, Ritesh, India is one of the few countries where when a plaintiff walks into the court seeking justice, the judge asks them, "What is your religion?" And based on the religion, the judge then turns around and picks the book or the code that applies to that religion. Um, if you were to rewrite the Constitution, would you have one uniform civil code in the country?
Yeah, our constitution does not recognize any religion as its own religion, and therefore, being a constitutional code, I would not put any such question. And on the top of it, I would say that in Supreme Court, like we can see the triple talaq judgment also. So the court have entered into that jurisdiction and the personal law and abolished that, the held that triple talaq unconstitutional. So now, like all citizens are equal, and provided the some social and economic backwardness is there, educational backwardness is there. Apart from that, just because one belongs to some particular religion and therefore the right available to the other citizen is not available to that religion. Even the Shah Banos is an example for us. So we treat all Indians equally. And that is I would do.
So,
And
Dr. Vyas, you think for India to become a first world nation and have 6 times the per capita income as Indians do now, which is the requirement to be called a first world nation, do you think India should have one civil code?
Sir,
first of all, okay. So
Let me
question
ask
was to
Dr.
no, no,
Vyas.
sir. Ritesh, sir, after you, sir. After you.
No, Ritesh had his chance. You go ahead. I have 3 more questions.
Sir, I believe that in certain parts we need some equality, and rest I think we are respecting. The constitution per se is respecting everyone's freedom, as Ritesh has said. That if there is some problem, let's say for example in case of triple talaq and all those things, then I believe religion can enter. And if there are some equalness which is required to synchronize our country or to our religion, because sir, I believe that yes, if there are some difficulties, state should help in helping in practicing my religion, because religion per se can be, this is my firm belief, sir, it is something which is very personal. And I think things have been taken care well in our country. And if anything happens, then only the state will be allowed to enter if there are some difficulties, if there is some social, because if you see, sir, the triple talaq was there because there was women who were facing problems. And in our constitution, they say that, okay, if anything happens to the special class of the citizens, like old people, like women, like children, then their rights will be protected. And I believe Supreme Court has taken that point, that ethos to the very highest level. Okay, if there is some problem with the religion, if there is some problem with our religious practice, okay, we will shut down in our country. And I believe,
Okay.
sir, Supreme Court has also taken some references from some other countries wherein that thing was being practiced, which was per se was a Muslim-dominated countries, and they have abolished it, because I believe Supreme Court was thinking that, look, there is a high time we should change certain things if it is of no use.
So, Ritesh, Article 19 of the Constitution says that there shall be no restraint on trade, which is great. The plumbers can advertise, and construction companies can advertise, and before independence, the lawyers of India had a lot of power. If you make a list of the top 100 people that got us independence, maybe 90 or 80 or 70 were lawyers. After independence, I think the rest of the country is free, but arguably the only people that are still in prison are lawyers. And Article 19 say there shall be no restraint on trade, but the 1.5 million lawyers of India cannot advertise. Is that whoever made that law in India that lawyers cannot advertise, is that unconstitutional?
Since this advocacy is a noble profession, and our knowledge, our skills, they are means, they are very well open to all. People can see, because people, if I am practicing good, so people get to know everything. So what I, in my personal opinion, or in my limited understanding, or in my limited period of practice, what I believe that being an advocate, I need not to advertise. Means it's a as a matter of Article 19(1)(g). So it is such an noble profession. I only need not to go to the court. Even I can sit in the office and can advise people.
So you want to live in a country where people who are doing noble jobs should be put in a dungeon and a cellar, and nobody should find out about them.
There are many other aspects how people grow. Again, that is who have a control over the social system. That is what Constitution also talks about. The fundamental right talks about it. it governs the life, social life of the society. So even again, again, it will come on the policies, how policies we are implementing in our society,
So
and
Dr.
what it
Vyas,
promotes.
everybody in the planet can advertise in India. Lawyers in India cannot even have a website. If you look at the top 1,000 law firms in the world, I don't know the statistic, but if I had to guess, I would say at least 50% of them, their websites are being done by IT engineers in India. Indian lawyers, on the other hand, are not allowed to have a website, are not allowed to have a booth at a conference, cannot advertise, cannot have a billboard on a bus stand. You think these laws that lawyers in India cannot advertise are unconstitutional because Article 19 says that there shall be no restraint on trade?
Sir, I just would like to add once to correct, not just to update you, sir, that although in India lawyers are allowed to have websites, but they can put nothing commercial for it. They have to just put up that, okay, what practice do we do, and how and what who all people who we are connected. That is what, and they also have need to put a kind of a disclosure which is being approved by the Bar Council of India, which say that okay, we are not
$1 billion of time is being wasted per year because thousands of people are having to click yes on some privacy notice or some disclaimer every time you open a lawyer's website. I don't know who's reading it, but at least $1 billion we're wasting on clicking on this website that nobody's reading. But the point is bigger. Do you think it's unconstitutional for whoever put in this law?
Sir, I believe that it is not per se unconstitutional, because I believe now Bar Council of India has allowed some foreign law firms coming into India reciprocate certain things, because sir,
The issue is about lawyers advertising. Forget foreign lawyers. Indian lawyer. How can you let foreign lawyers come in while your lawyers yourself are in prison with handcuffs? How could you have foreign lawyers come in? Let free up the Indian lawyers first.
Sir, I just would like to say that, look, we are just gain our independence in 75, and I believe the law firms in India, they are not that old, they are not that big, because like for example, if let's say the lawyers will start advertising, then there will be complaints which says that okay, the lawyers who are charging the highest, the lawyers who are like earning crores and crores per day, they are advertising more, and the lawyers who are earning less, they are getting less space. So
the research, by the way, everybody in India
sir,
feels that, but I want you to know that the research shows that every country where lawyers are allowed to advertise, the large law firms don't advertise. The large law firms in any country, you will never see them advertise anywhere because they don't want the kind of customers you get from advertisement, the retail individual customers. It's only the small firms that benefit from advertising and maybe the small medium firms. The large law firms want companies as clients, so they don't ever advertise. But that's okay. We'll talk about this soon. Professor Birpal Singh is with us. Thank you for joining us from Bhopal. We've done 100 webinars over the last 6 years. We've only, I think, had one person from Bhopal so far. So we're very happy you joined us. Your specialty is, why don't you tell us about your life? Tell us what kind of work you do and where you were born, and tell us a bit. You're muted. Can you unmute yourself, Professor?
Sir, I think you're still on mute, sir.
That microphone button, if you can click that and unmute. Madhura, do you have the power to, Durga, to unmute?
No, sir. Actually, he is one of the presenters, so he could do it.
Can you tell him what
I
to do?
think so you have to give some kind of a permission to your microphone to allow it to give you the access. I think that might be the problem, sir.
Okay.
If you could just recheck, Veerpal sir, if you could just please check from that upper taskbar mein, if you, I think you can, that permission is to be granted, sir. Sir, if so, just right to the camera, so there is a mic. If you could just unmute yourself, or otherwise you can check from that HTTP address, sir. That permission is to be granted. If you're given that permission, I think, sir.
We have given that permission.
Okay. So while he's working on it, let me ask you, Dr. Vyas and Ritesh. Did we lose Ritesh? Okay. So Dr. Vyas, 49 million pending cases, and Ritesh, the 49 million pending cases, half of them the government is either the plaintiff or defendant. A quarter of them are criminal matters. Somebody's written a story that it'll take 400 years to clear the backlog. Almost half of the properties in India are in dispute. There is the oldest case in India is over 150 years old. So what's your solution? Do you have any magic wands to wave, both Ritesh and Dr. Vyas? Because delayed justice is no justice at all, which is what's going on right now. So any magical solutions you have to reduce the pendency of 49 million cases, Ritesh?
Then Malik Mazhar's case is going on in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court nowadays is behind all the states to appoint the judges and fill up all the vacancies. So that has geared up the appointments in the judiciary and the infrastructure also. Justice Chandrachud, CJI, he himself is taking care of those matters. The only requirement is to increase the infrastructure, and appointment of judges has to be done timely, and it should be in proportion to the cases pending before it.
Right.
So that would
Most
help.
most of the developed world, Ritesh, there is a page limit on pleadings people file with in the court. 5 pages, 10 pages, 15 pages. And India, there is no such page limit, and lawyers can write as many pages as they want. Can we have a page
Yes,
limit?
but most judges know where to look, what pages to be looked into.
Okay. All right.
Yes, that is what I have experienced, sir,
Yeah.
with many years in my
Okay.
practical experience.
Yeah. Okay, we'll ask Dr. Vyas that question. So, Professor Birpal Singh, please go ahead. Tell us about your life.
Am I audible right now?
Yes, wonderful.
Yes, like,
Good morning, everyone. I joined late because I was not aware about. I mailed, but I was not aware about. Okay, so it's fine. I am professor here at National Law Institute, University Bhopal, having almost 25 years of my teaching and research experience. Okay, and my main area is tribal studies and rural development. And the exact title of my post present, which I am holding, that is the Professor in Panchayat Administration and Nyaya Panchayat. I'm also the chairperson of Center for Tribal Studies and Research, and also director for distance and online education. Okay, so this is my brief introduction.
So the question I have of you, Professor Singh, is that do you think the Indian Constitution gives way too much power to the central government, and ideally the states and the districts and the cities should have more power than they do now?
I think we are now the part of federal structure. So it would not be better to say that there is a centralized authority, there are sub-centralized authority, and that is the purpose of decentralized planning. Okay, so if we restrict ourselves once constitution came into existence, so everything is supposed to see in the light of the constitution or under the constitution. and Constitution gives right to each and everyone as part of the decentralized planning. Okay, so we will not say that it is only the centralized, they are sub-centralized authorities from center, and that is the Article 246 of the Constitution also says, right? So there is no central authority. Okay, in working you may say, in doing you may say, but no power is distributed, and that's the meaning of the distributed justice. This is what I personally think.
Right. But you're working with these panchayats and local cities and all. Do you think you could better serve the communities if the cities and panchayats had more power than they do now?
Yes, no doubt, because the kind of the decentralized planning of which we have adopted, and but the basic change which Indians have witnessed after the coming of the Constitution when we became independent and we were declared as a federal nation, that this gives the right to each and everyone, what was not earlier. Okay. And when this gives right to each and everyone under the Constitution, everyone has his or her or their say in the decision-making process of this country. And that is one of the basic motto of the Constitution or spirit of the Constitution. When we say everyone, as we all know, the caste is the harsh reality of our social system since time immemorial. And even today, the general elections is going, again we will have a government. Okay, one way or other way, caste is still dominating. This is the harsh reality, or it is the what we say the practical aspect of our society. In this harsh reality, when only the traditional dominant caste were dominating the direction of society, now after coming of the Constitution, by adopting the policy of affirmative action, every section has been given their place in the decision-making process of this country, and where this local self-government, whether we talk about the municipalities under Article 243 of the Constitution, or even we talk about the grassroots democracy in rural India, I think this has given too much exclusive right to each and every sections where they can equally contribute for the development of this country or their villages or their cities while developing themselves. This is what I personally have observed while I've done some lot of research in the rural areas. My one research is still going on, sponsored by the ICSR as part of major research project on customary law. So I think this is the one issue. And so far the tribals are concerned, even the PESA Act, you might be aware about 1996, which came after Dilip Singh Bhuria committee recommendation. Special provisions are also given under Article 244 of the Constitution under the 5th schedule that their customary rights will not be disturbed because these communities present a unique cultural identities, and this is what we call the democracy. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. What we can that is the a kind of political slogan, but that is also a philosophy of the Vastu Kundukam, which we Indians are carrying since time memory. This is my personal observation.
Right. Thank you. So one question I had posed our other two speakers, Dr. Vyas and Ritesh, is that in 1950, the Constitution gave, of course, the Constitution says all human beings are equal in India, but a special treatment was, a preferential treatment was given for the Dalits. And from what I recall, at that point, the Dalits were maybe 25, 30, 33%, and now other other groups have been added, and now it's over 50%. And there was a sunset clause that the special privileges would end in 1960, but that didn't happen. So do you think 73 years is enough, and now we can go back to just having a simple line that all human beings are equal and no special treatment to any class?
This question to me?
Yes.
Hello.
You've written a book on scheduled tribes, right?
Hello.
Yeah, you've written a book on scheduled tribes, so you're more qualified than all of us. Do you think the purpose of giving special treatment to the Dalits in 1950, you think that has been achieved? And can we remove the special treatment now?
No,
Or?
no, not at all. I think still we have to go on. No doubt changes have been there, but still we are far away from the real changes. Okay, just mere economic gain will not changing the social status and the regions why criminal concept is not applied in case of SC and STs. In many its landmark judgments, where the apex could also mention that if economic position has changed, but social position not changed, which is one of the most important component of our social interaction. So I think we have achieved, but we have not achieved the way we are supposed to achieve. Okay. So this struggle between equality and equity somewhere is still happening in this country. So we need more, but no doubt, just like in some European countries, where we the class structure rather than the caste structure. So economy must be given privilege over the social issues, and then I think change will definitely come. Just mere removing this class, as you said, the affirmation no more required after this 73 or 75 years, what we're talking about. But I think that is required. But only the change, how that will work, who are needy people. Whether everybody who belong to SC/ST, they all need? No, because even socially and economically they achieved if their sons and daughters are getting a quality education from the convent or so-called convent schools, their
Kids of
parents
chief
already
ministers.
got the benefit.
Kids,
I think there
children,
we have to
children
think.
of chief ministers.
G?
Children of chief ministers were given
Yes.
special
There I
privilege.
think because one of the paper which I taught almost 13 years my university as part of seminar paper to final year LLB students, that is the law relating to affirmative action. One of my book is also published in affirmative action in India, issues and challenges. I already have one publication, right?
But
So
Professor
there I
Singh,
think
if a child is born, if a child is born and we keep branding them as something special, then the equity will never happen. If you really want equity to happen, then the government needs to stop branding half of the country as
right.
something not normal Indian, some special preference. If we keep branding them, how will equity ever happen?
This is the reasons because today this whole issue of affirmative action or compensatory discrimination or what are the nomenclature we have, they become a more political gimmicks rather than bringing a parity on social ground. And the regions when no government uh, is in a position because of the vote bank politics to take harsh step. The moment a government required, because if you remember uh, some years back when the Haryana OBC Commission itself said that Jats and Gurjars, no way they belong to the marginalized section society and thus they don't need any kind of the reservation. This is mentioned by the OBC Commission of the state. But we know that compared to the government and what happened in the Maharashtra and what happened in other parts of this country. So they are the harsh realities we can't ignore because the politics is all about the taking the chair जिसको कहते हैं कुर्सी लेना जो है. Okay, so there are the issues. Saying may be very easy, but on political grounds not that much easy. We got too much hue and cry created when in earlier parliament just in 2018 you might be aware about one of the case Dr. Subhas Kasna Mahajan was the state of Maharashtra. It was mentioned that prior investigation required if any case is filed under the SCT Act, but that created too much hue and cry. That this present government at that time is again the Dalits, they are not interested. Okay, so there is some crucial issues when even government think they are not in that position because so-called politics and the regions whether the people of the general committee or the highly qualified people of the committee on such issues, most of them time they are very mummed. We can start discussion on public platforms. When asked this, they are all debatable issues. Unless until all are not coming together, what I personally think this will be continue, and if this will be continuing, this will definitely create a gap, and which is rising day by day. We can the name of the so-called affirmative action. This is my observation.
Right. So we're kind of out of time, but I did want to ask you, Professor, saying that there's a Netflix series on the 1984 gas leak in Bhopal, and on the 30th anniversary, or the 40th anniversary rather. And there's 150,000 people still suffering. And you think the Bhopal victims, gas victims, still have not received justice?
When we say the justice, because my two papers, I am also the co-author on the Bhopal gas study, they are already published by Cambridge Press, right? On Bhopal gas study. See, the one thing that has ruined in this country, but that is also one of the required structure of the society, that is the politics. Okay, yes, they are the victims, but at the same time, who were not the victims, they also receive the compensation. So these are the some crucial issues. Unless and until transparency is not coming, nothing will take right step. Number one, and for transparency, what are the good governance? Accountability is more important, and we are lacking on the part of accountability because of the lack of proper monitoring system. So yes, no doubt, every year we give a ceremonial celebration or our talk or your voices on 3rd December. Okay, when Bhopal gas study occurred way back in 1984. So still we are struggling, but yes, so much happened. People have received the compensation. Some of them have also become advanced, if you see that areas. But the regions, even today in the paper, in Dainik Bhaskar Bhopal, that Union Carbide Kachra, garbage, that is still creating the problem. So whom to blame? Not to public, government, and government also the part of the public. So unless and until both are not coming together, nothing can take the right shape. In 1984, something happened, but still we are not finding the solution where to dump this garbage so that the nearby population may not be affected. Okay, even today, some sort of disease are coming because of that wastage of the Union Carbide. That is a serious disaster for the health. So government has to take, I think, then only things can take the right shape.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Vyas. Thank you, Ritesh. Thank you, Professor Singh, for joining us. It's a wonderful conversation. Of course, it's a very important topic, and we could discuss this for hours. So we'll do this again. And anytime, Ritesh and Dr. Vyas, you're willing to sign my petition to make everybody equal in India, let me know and we'll do another seminar. Thank you so much. All right. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, sir.
So I joined
Thank
very
you.
late.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you all. Good days.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, thank you.